Hello, 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 YouTube. Let us get our life together over here on Instagram really quickly because we want to make sure that all of y'all get this goodness tonight. I am here with my bestie from the Westie, from the
Hello.
Midwestie, Evelyn Williams, aka the Evelyn Inc. And tonight we're going to be discussing the value of self care with you guys. If there's anything that we both are good at, it is self care and checking our self care systems when we need to. All
Mhm.
right, I'm live over here on Instagram, so you can join me there too. This is going to be such a good night.
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Instagram. How are y'all tonight? We are also live on YouTube and Facebook. So if you want to join the conversation, if you want to have your questions answered, we're going to do our best to get to all the questions over here on Instagram. But we are both over here on YouTube and Facebook as well. Are you joining the live, Evelyn, over here on
Oh,
IG?
there we
We're
go.
both over here on YouTube and Facebook as well, where we will be focusing our attention and we'll be answering the questions over here in the chat. All right, let's see. Let's get you together. All right, here we go. There we go.
Yay.
All right, we are live on both channels. Let us
Mhm.
know that you can see us okay over here on IG. Let us know that you can see us okay over here on YouTube and Facebook as well. And we're going to get into it. So, tonight is our discussion. Oh goodness, oh goodness. IG is playing games. All
I know,
right.
it kicked me out of here. What's
They
going
kicked us
on?
both out of here. So I'm just gonna pop into live. Okay, Jeanette says all good. Hey Jeanette, so good to see you here. We're back live on IG. Hopefully it lets us do our thing this time. If not, we're just gonna keep it over here on YouTube where they love us. All
Yeah.
right. So tonight we are discussing the value of self-care.
Mhm.
And I think that everybody has gotten their fill of what it means to take care of yourself these days.
Mhm.
We're moving into such a time, I think,
Mhm.
with all that's happened with COVID and all of that, and also just the way that the world is changing. Everyone's more focused inward. Everyone is more focused on, how's my body feeling? How's my mind feeling? How's my household feeling? Where I
Mhm.
come to rest, how does that feel? And sometimes we can get stuck on the surface when it
Mhm.
comes to self-care. Especially in like the IG just do it for the gram kind of world, where as long as it looks good or as long as it makes me happy, it must be okay.
Right.
So we're going to go a little bit deeper in that conversation tonight and talk about how to dive deeper in your self-care, what the real value of self-care is, and how
Mhm.
to understand your needs. Because what
Mhm.
you see me do, what you see Evelyn do, what you're seeing other people do, may not be fulfilling for you because that's not really what you need.
Mhm.
So I'm Yahya. For those who don't know, I'm Yahya Smith. I'm the founder of Feminine Success. I know we have lots of good people over here from the Evelyn Inc. page as well. So I am the founder of Feminine Success, the author of the Feminine Success book, and the creator of Feminine Success School. I am a mom of four, yes, four, and
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
wife. And a wife, and I coach an amazing community of women around building systems for the four key areas of their life: your
Mhm.
mindset, your home life, your work life, and your relationships.
Mhm.
And probably one of my most proud titles is a best friend and business bestie to this woman here, Evelyn Williams.
Yes.
Just an amazing light in the world, okay?
Thank you for that. Listen, Yaya and I have been friends. Oh my gosh, is it almost 6 years at this point we've been friends?
Almost.
Almost
Almost.
6 years, yes. But for those of you who are new to me, I'm Evelyn of the Evelyn Inc. And the meaning behind that name is that I really went through a season where I said I need to be the CEO of my life and not just of my business. And so, and I had to implement what I call strategic self care. And so I'm really, really passionate about that because I see a lot of women putting a lot of effort into their career or their business. And I think that's fantastic. But I also want them to put that same level of time, energy, and attention into enhancing their personal life. So,
Yes, absolutely. We talk all the time and we see all the time in our respective businesses what happens when you focus all of your attention and energy on accomplishment,
hmm
acquisition, and not filling your cup. And so often, because I don't know that I know many women who are achieving at a high level or aiming at high level achievement who are not going and getting their nails done regularly, go and get regular pedicures. They've scheduled their massages for months. They're
hmm
at the hairdresser once a week. And so often we think that those things are self care. And we look around at some point and say, oh my goodness, I'm investing in all of these different things, but yet I still don't feel like my cup is full. What do you
hmm
have to say to that?
Well, it's because I believe that those things, those self-care tactics became another item on the to-do list. Everybody says I should do self-care. Let me add that to the list of things I'm already supposed to be doing, right? And I kind of like to relate it to business in the way that there's a lot of tactics out there. Social media is a tactic, Instagram is a tactic. But if you don't have an anchor of a strategy, then these tactics of, okay, self-care Saturday, a bubble bath, lighting a candle, they're going to fall flat. Right. And so people are borrowing just, I see this person doing this, and it's not hitting the core issue or the core area that it really needs to hit. And so, like you said, successful women are doing those things I like to call maintenance. Those
Mm-hmm.
things just keep you functioning, right? They keep
Mm-hmm.
you from functioning without going insane or burnout. And real self care is about enhancement. And so those things are like the benchmark for women at that level. And so they're wondering why, I got a stand and spa appointment, and I go to the spa and it feels great in the moment and I feel like I'm taking care of myself. And if I post it on social media, I look like I'm taking care of myself. And if you're anything like I am, I can cross that off the list. I
Mm-hmm.
took care, I did my self care for today. And then 4 hours later, you're like, that was great. Okay. I still feel like that was great. Yay, me. And the next day, it's like, okay, well, all right. And so it's this fleeting experience. And that's because these are random tactics that are not bound together by a deeper strategy and not supported by systems.
Listen, listen. I hope y'all wrote that down. You're not feeling the lasting effects of your self care because you're practicing random tactics that are not bound together by a strategy and supported by systems.
hmm
Listen, this is my strategist friend, okay? When I need strategy, this is who I go to. When she needs systems, I'm where she turns. So it's
yes.
like a symbiotic relationship. And that's really what it looks like in your self care ecosystem, if you will.
hmm
This almost environment that you create around yourself that lends itself to your care.
Yes.
So often, we don't factor in community care into
hmm
our self-care plan. We're not factoring in, our service providers and all of those other things. We're really just, I go wherever I can go and get my nails done. So now
hmm
not only are you um not going deep enough, you're
hmm
really practicing maintenance, but you're also not building the relationships that make that care really impactful. I'll give you an example. So I have a standing appointment with my esthetician.
hmm
We all know I'm from New Orleans. We just went through Hurricane Ida. Everywhere was shut down because the lights were out everywhere.
hmm
So we come to Florida. I'm like, okay, I need to fill my cup. So this is a part of my strategy for getting my cup full. But one of my tactics is making sure my nails are done, my toes are done, and I'm good and waxed up. Y'all, I went to a new wax tech in a new city. And when I tell you that random tactic, it bit me in the butt, okay? It slapped me in the
Literally.
face, okay? And it's because the experience and the relationship and all of that is built when you are intentionally choosing who cares for you, who
Mhm,
provides for you, who supports your systems and your strategy.
mhm,
All of that was out of the window, and it was just kind of random,
mhm,
spur of the moment, and off the cuff. And I ended up, of course, texting my esthetician, like, oh my goodness, I really didn't realize the difference when we choose random care. When we
mhm,
think, oh, I just need my nails done, or
mhm,
I just need to get waxed. So if
mhm,
I can't go where I normally go, or I can't go where I have this relationship built, or where I can feel most comfortable, I'll just go somewhere, get it
mhm,
done, and be okay.
mhm.
It didn't turn out okay.
No.
And so often we end up regretting what we do randomly, what we do. And I'm not talking about spontaneity, being intentional and spontaneous. I'm
Mhm.
talking about settling for what's available.
Right.
How many times are we settling for what's available and derailing our self care strategy?
And one of the things I want to add to that, because I think the example that you gave about your esthetician is great, and as far as, a service provider, but that also goes to the options that we think are available for self-care. If we keep going down the path that self-care is an event and not a
Mm
lifestyle, we're going to have that same experience. That's a random tactic.
hmm.
If we
Mm
keep saying, I'm going to do a self-care Saturday, that's a random tactic. If it's just, okay, I saw Evelyn and Yahya, they give flowers every week. Let me give flowers every week, but flowers aren't even your thing. This is just this random tactic that falls empty,
hmm. Mm
right?
hmm.
And so it's not just, the service provider that's random. It's, are you just logging online and you found a self care checklist on Pinterest,
Mm hmm.
right? Have a morning routine, drink a cup of tea, take yourself on a date. And here's the thing, those things individually are not bad things.
Mm hmm.
Again, I take it back to the business example. All marketing works,
Mm
but
hmm.
does it work for you?
Mm
Right.
hmm.
And so if you're just hodgepodging, pulling these tactics off of a shelf of a smorgasbord of, these are all the things that people say self care can be. So let me just pull them in, and then you wonder why it falls flat, right? And now you have, wasted time, energy, effort, and then you're frustrated like, I'm doing self-care. And it's like, well, that's not really it.
Right. What would you say is the difference? Because I'm sure so many people are wondering now
Mhm.
between a strategy and a tactic when it comes to self care.
Mhm, mhm. I actually have a definition for strategy that I will share. And so the definition of a strategy is a plan of action designed to achieve a major or overall aim, a careful plan or method for achieving a particular goal, usually over a long period of time. So here's the thing, a lot of times we're doing self care and we don't have a goal. What's the goal of your self care? What do you want the outcome to be? Is it to say that I take care of myself? How exactly do you want to feel? What do you want it to do for you? Self care is a means to an end. If you don't know what that end is, it's kind of like getting in the car and saying, oh, I have a fancy GPS system, AKA your strategy, but you don't put the end coordinates in. Well, the GPS can't do anything if it doesn't have the end coordinates. If you don't know where you want to be in all of the pillars of self care that we're going to talk about tonight in the Feminist Success School, like if you don't know where what the standards are, we're going to talk about the 10 components of a self care strategy. But if you don't know what those standards are, then a strategy is just going to be sitting there idle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, it's just like, if I use the driving example, well, there's accelerate, decelerate, U-turn, parallel parking. These are all driving tactics. I could just be out here turning, U-turning, popping wheelies, right? And be like, I didn't go anywhere, and now I'm just tired and burned up a whole bunch of gas. It's the same thing.
Absolutely. I
Mhm,
love, love, love that example. So the next time you're in your car, ladies, ask yourself, have I plugged in the
mhm.
coordinates, the destination, in my self care strategy the way I just plugged in this GPS?
That part.
That part. Yeah. So let's talk about understanding your needs,
Mhm,
really understanding, because it's so easy, I think, in today's time with social media. There are messages coming to you from everywhere, other people's lives coming to you from everywhere.
mhm,
For you to, if you're a person who maybe does not engage in high level self care on a regular basis, or even any self care on a regular basis, to just go searching and say, well, what is self care? What does that look like, without knowing what you really need? So
mhm.
let's talk about that, because we don't want folks here comparing yourselves to anyone and saying, oh, I'm not doing self care like her, or I'm not doing that kind of self care, so I must not be doing it right.
Mhm, mhm. I think the key or the answer to that is self-exploration. Think about it like this. If you go to get medical care, it doesn't matter what's happening to you. They are going to evaluate from head to toe. I don't care if you tell them that my ankle's hurting. They're like, "Yep, we're going to check that. We're also going to check your blood pressure, your heart rate, your cholesterol. When's the last time you had a cycle? What did you eat?" Like they're going to do an assessment on you from head to toe, even if they're just addressing one area. And so I think that really having the skills and knowing what to look for, what to ask yourself, to self-assess and say, okay, this is what I need. But a lot of times we're just subjecting ourselves to what other people tell us we need
Yes,
and assuming
yes.
that's law. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we've done the self-exploration, either we haven't done it deep enough, or when the answers came back to us from us, we made the answers wrong.
Talk more about that.
Listen, we could go get into a whole other conversation. But so let me see if I can think of an example. I'll use myself as an example. So one of my favorite things in the world is makeup. It's one of my favorite things. And some people may say that makeup is just something is a utility. I just have to put it on because I'm going to be on a Zoom call, or I'm going to go, out in public, or whatever the case may be. And there's nothing wrong with the people that live in that spectrum. I live in the spectrum that makeup is like painting on my face. It's like cooking a different meal, and all of my palettes and things are different spices, right? But for a long time, I made it wrong. That's
Mm-hmm.
frivolous. You don't need that. You only got one face. Um, you could be doing other things with your time. You could be doing other things with your money, and not realizing that this creative outlet fed one of the 12 areas of self-care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once I viewed it as, but this outlet that I've made wrong, or somehow picked up the messaging that just because this thing doesn't make me money, and it's not making me super spiritual, and it's not making me healthier,
Right.
right? That this thing is useless.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than when they started taking art out of the schools, because somewhere somebody deemed that was useless, or it was extra and not a necessity, right? But we live our life in art. Everybody likes
Mm-hmm.
their house to look nice. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
likes their clothes to look nice, right? These are artists that created that. Everybody wants a soundtrack to their life. So imagine if the way we're doing our self-care, if those people did the same thing. I don't need to create music. That's a bonus. That's useless. I don't need to
Mm.
create a painting or furniture or whatever. That's useless. Everybody can sit on a folding lawn chair. And so that self-assessment, make sure you're going deep enough, but also when the answers come to you,
Mm-hmm.
don't judge them based on other people's criteria. Trust yourself enough to go, if this is what came up for me, then this is what I need and desire right now, and not making it wrong.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. And that is such a brave
Mhm.
stance to take.
Mhm.
It can sound so simple. I think sometimes when we're listening to podcasts or folks live streaming or even videos, we think that it's simple. But when you're
Mhm.
standing in your life and self care looks completely opposite of other care, when you're standing in your life and taking care of you, investing in you seems like it's going to take away from someone else, that's a brave decision to make.
Mhm.
And what you often realize is that the more you choose you, the more room you have to give to others.
Mhm.
And I see my husband here. He said the goats are in the building, and really, even for men, because I know there are some men who watch us. The same goes for you. There can often be this idea that, well, women have the freedom to choose themselves first. Men don't have that kind of luxury because we've got to be responsible for everyone. Well, there are women who can say the very same thing.
Mhm.
No one is more responsible to the people around them than they are to themselves.
Mhm.
And I can say that as a mother of four, a wife, a coach to dozens of clients, that no one around you, taking care of them is never more important than taking care of you, because once your cup is empty, you have nothing else to give those people, and you have essentially failed your responsibility to them as well, because you
Mhm.
failed your responsibility to you.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so let's talk about that. Let's talk about why self care is valuable, because I think that I always think everyone's doing the best that they can with what they know at the time.
Mhm.
And so many of us get our messaging around self care from other people, other women, other men in our lives, usually older than us, who felt like self care was an option.
Mhm.
And so now, when we are in our lives feeling that exhaustion, feeling that burnout, we still tell ourselves, well, that's not really valuable. That's not really necessary. So
Mhm.
let's talk about that. Why self-care really is valuable and not optional.
You know, it's because it's our birthright. And I know that that phrase gets just pounded into the ground, but it's so true. Okay. It is our birthright. And I will say culturally, right, specifically for Black women in the United States, we've gone through generations and generations of survival. So, and that's just like the bare minimum. We're just trying not to die, right? Try not to starve to death. The basic, when they think about the hierarchy of needs, we have been living at that base level for so long that we think that that is life. And so anything above survival, even if it's comfortable survival, feels like a luxury,
Mm-hmm.
feels like an accessory. And, which is why I really like to drive home the point that there's a difference between self care and self maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the things that are just maintenance, right, we're calling care because we weren't even able to do maintenance for so
Mm-hmm.
long, right? So I think the value is that that is the essence of life. When you start talking about abundant life, when you start talking about enjoying life, when you even start talking about being a living testimony or a witness, right, in your life, if you over here burnt out, bored to death, laid out, tired, exhausted, what kind of story is that? Nobody wants to listen to that story, right? But if you are filled and refreshed and enjoying life, right, which is what we were meant to do, that is the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's really about wrestling with this idea that, we hear it a lot, which is, if you've got roof over your head and food on your table, that's enough
Mm-hmm.
to survive,
Mm-hmm.
not to
Mm-hmm.
thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And when did thriving become a luxury? Why would we be placed on this earth to struggle? And I'm not even just talking about financial struggle, any kind of struggle, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, relationally. Why would we be put on this earth to struggle? What kind
Mm-hmm.
of parent says, you know what? I'm going to have these kids. And you know what? They have got to struggle.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So the value of self-care comes in. It's like, because this should be your benchmark.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the hardest gap to close, is people do feel like it's a luxury, and it's one of the first things that get cut when life gets tight,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which it actually should be the opposite. When
Mm-hmm.
life closes in, self-care needs to expand,
Yes.
and not even equally,
Yes.
exponentially,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not a linear equation. So, um I wish it was more formulaic. I wish I could give you a
Mm-hmm.
more formulaic answer, but the reality is the value of self-care is that it's the essence of living.
Mm-hmm.
That is life, right?
Mm-hmm.
To care and nurture for yourself, not just to maintain yourself so that you can get through the day, through the week, and make it to the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
then make it to the end of your life and be like, "Whoo, child, I made it."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's making sense.
Yeah, for sure. Tiffany Venti says it's almost shunned when your self-care involves saying no to things you don't want to do, or when it's just a new boundary.
Hmm.
And a part of discovering yourself and going on that journey of self-discovery is realizing whose opinions matter, who's shunning you. Does their opinion really matter? And I saw Brene Brown.
Hmm.
She was speaking one day. She was talking about understanding whose opinions matter in your life. And she pulled out this little, literally like a 2x2 sticky note, and was like, write down the 5 people in your life whose opinion will change your mind, or whose opinion actually matters. There are not more than 5 people in your life whose opinion really matters.
Hmm.
So often we are basing our desires on people's approval.
Mhm.
I get it so often. Women who, and I haven't been getting it lately, which I love, but women who say, I'm ready to make an investment in myself. I'm ready to take my life to the next level. I'm ready to step into my dream, my business. But let me go ask my husband first. Let me go ask my dad first and see what he thinks. Let me go
Mhm.
ask my best friend and see what she thinks. Or, oh, I want to go on this trip that's really going to fill my cup, that's really going to help me. I've been craving travel for so long, but my friends don't want to go. And so often we are basing how deep we're willing to go on our own journey with who around us is willing to validate that.
Mhm.
As a mother of 4 who often travels alone, I can tell you that nobody else's opinion outside of yours matters, because at the end of the day, those people also don't want to deal with the version of you that you become when you're depleted. Now
And can
you're a
I
problem.
add something to that?
Yes.
I would say that yes, it is. They don't want to deal with that version of you, but also I would like to add to that what it does is it actually takes away their excuses for not being that version of themselves. Right. And
Absolutely.
so because it snatches all their excuses. Well, if she can do it, and she got a husband and 4 kids and whatever, and I don't have that. Oh, well, what's the excuse? And I love this example. I really wish I could give credit where I got this from, but my mother and I say this all the time, which is we talk about going to your control room, and
Hmm.
the picture that I want, those of you that are watching live or watching the replay to get in your head is, I really want you to do this exercise with me. I want you to close your eyes, okay? And I want you to imagine that you're on a boat, okay? A yacht. Let's go luxury. You're on a yacht, okay? And you're out in the middle of this beautifully calm ocean. But then there's the room where where you steer the boat, right? The control room, right? And you're the captain of the boat, okay? And this is symbolic of your life. You've got to steer this yacht where you want it to go. We talked about those coordinates, right? But what happens is that a lot of people, what they do is they open up the door to the control room and they let
Hmm.
50, 11 people in. And so now you've got 35 people with their hand on the steering wheel of the boat, right? And the person was talking about that in the example. It's like the only people that should be in that room with you at all times is you and God and whoever else you choose to invite in on
Mm-hmm.
occasion. Right. And then, even then, sometimes you have to ask them to leave so you and God can go back in a room and figure out what you want to do. Right. Here's the thing, those hands on the steering wheel could be people that you know, it could be people that you don't know, it could be things that people have said to you, it could be dead people, right? It could be people
Mm.
that you don't like. You can have all these hands on the steering wheel, and then you're wondering why your life is haphazard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And why you're so exhausted because you're trying to turn the boat this way, and they're like, "No, you should go this way. No, I should go this way," because there's 50 people in there, right? And so, really feeling okay with me, God and I are the majority. Matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
God and I are a unanimous decision,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I will consult with people as I feel appropriate, as I feel led, because wise counsel is important. But like
Mm-hmm.
Brene Brown said, that shouldn't be 35 people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
I probably have about three. If I'm really, really honest with myself,
Mhm.
people who I trust,
Mhm.
A, people who I
Mhm.
trust, people who have discernment,
Mhm.
wisdom, folks whose lives I can look at and say, okay, you make the kinds of choices for
Mhm.
yourself that will help
Mhm.
you help me.
Mhm.
Um, and even in those moments, because sometimes there are things that you desire for yourself, that you need for yourself,
Mhm.
that no one around you will understand. I remember the first time I went to a mom retreat. It was just me and
Mhm.
God,
Mhm.
and it was a significant amount that it cost me to go there. And I think almost everybody around me was like, "Are you sure? Could you go for a couple less days? What's going?" And my husband was like, "Well, listen, go do what you need to do." But tons of people were like, "Really? You gonna spend that kind of money on that?" But who I became going on that journey with myself, diving deeper into myself, paying attention to how I felt, what my needs were, who you become in the process is
Mhm.
what you're after. And that's why it's so important to have those goals around self-care. What is
Mhm.
your destination? Because you can spend $10,000 on a vacation in a second and come back and feel like I need a vacation from my vacation.
Well, because that's the difference between a vacation and a retreat, but that's for the
Mm-hmm.
feminist success school. Okay.
That's for the Feminine Success School.
Yes.
Tonight in Feminine Success School, we are going even deeper in this conversation, and we will be discussing the 10 pillars of self care. We'll be talking about Chef Evelyn's specific self care framework that she
Mhm.
has going on,
Yes.
that I'm super, super excited to learn about. But we wanted to come here and give you guys just a little taste of what
Mhm.
the conversation is like and to hear what your questions are. The Social Charlotte says, I honestly didn't understand the weight of this word until I went through the Feminine Success Masterclass. And it's true, you get so much, you go so much deeper into yourself without getting lost, without, getting lost in the
Mhm.
sauce like we can.
Mhm.
But you're able to go so much deeper. And Tiffany Venti says, my mom passed and she is still holding my steering wheel. That is so powerful.
Mhm.
Tiffany, I want to encourage you that your mom has equipped you with everything that you need to gain control of that steering wheel of your life. And that's not
Mhm.
only for Tiffany, but that's for any motherless, fatherless, grandmotherless women out here who are still allowing that person who loved you very much, who came and passed, the control over your life. Their time has passed, and it's
Mhm.
time for you to own your story as it pertains to that. Christine Van Wyck says, God and I are the majority. That part. The Social Charlotte says, my family had no idea why I needed to invest in the things I invested into, but it wasn't their vision. Absolutely. And then we have one more question, and that is, how can you tell the difference between self care and selfish?
Mm. How
That's
much
for
time we
over
got?
here on Facebook.
Okay. So, do you want to take a stab at that first, or do you
Yeah,
want me to
I
jump
can
in there?
definitely answer that. Pretty quickly, because I think, first of all, I know the woman that's asking this is a mother, and so
Mhm.
often when we are moms, there's this guilt that comes with taking care of yourself and thinking everything that I give me is taking something away from them. Well,
Mhm.
the first piece of that is once you start to tap into self-care in a very real way, you also tap into abundance, and you realize that everything that I pour into me, I am able to regenerate in multiplicity when I pour into myself intentionally.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. The second piece, and how I distinguish as a mom between self care and selfish, is if I'm approaching something and I'm saying, I don't care about how this affects anybody. I
Right.
don't care if it hurts anybody. I don't care if it traumatizes anybody. I'm going to do it anyway. That is probably an inner child that needs to be tended to, that did not feel she had control and now wants to take the steering wheel and drive the car all the way off the road.
Mhm.
So many times, what we're calling selfish is actually an untended wound that your inner child is just trying to go above and beyond to soothe. We see
Mhm.
that with children all the time. You know, you tell them no, then the next thing that they do, they're like jumping off of something because
Mm.
now they feel like they need to do even more.
Mhm.
So I would even change my language around that and not call it selfish and say, maybe my inner child needs some soothing right now. And I need to start paying more attention to what I need here.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I love to call that soothing self-nurturing. And
Mm-hmm.
to Yaya's point about, it not being detrimental to someone else, I want to put a caveat with that, that there's a difference between it being detrimental and it just being discomfort.
Yeah.
It is okay if they experience some discomfort
Mm-hmm.
because they're not used to you paying attention to yourself. There's a difference between discomfort and detriment, right? I'm upset right now. I'm gonna throw a fit. I wanted you to whatever. It's okay to let them be uncomfortable. We're talking about detrimental to the relationship, to their health and well-being, to this. That's where it
Mm-hmm.
leans to the selfish side. But I wanted to add that little piece that there can possibly be discomfort or
Mm-hmm.
discontentment even on the outside party. That doesn't automatically equate to selfishness. We're talking about relationship severing things detrimental to people's
Mm-hmm.
health, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna leave for 2 years because I just got to go find myself, and y'all figured out, and I see y'all when y'all see. Okay, that's selfish, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if I need to go away for 10 days,
Mm-hmm.
y'all not gonna die. It might be uncomfortable,
Right.
right? So I just want to put that in there because 100% agree with everything that you said, Yaya. But I wanted to add that
Mm-hmm.
little piece that they may be uncomfortable, they may even be discontented for a second, and they'll be okay. I
Mm-hmm.
have this phrase. I tell people I practice a spicy brand of self care, and I always say that who's gonna be uncomfortable first? Is it gonna be me? Is it gonna be them? It's probably gonna be them. Because
And
if I make myself uncomfortable first,
mm-hmm.
that will turn into resentment, and then we're down a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother path of problems. If I
Yes.
resent you because I keep self-sacrificing for
Yes.
your comfort.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Which really is selfish. We
Mhm.
do that. People pleasing is an attempt to control others. It really is. It's an attempt to control how they see you,
Mhm.
whether they like you or not. So you're really still being selfish if you are sacrificing yourself for others on a consistent basis, because what ends up happening, we end up coming around and saying, well, I did this for you
And
and I
this
did this for you, and you can't even do A, B, and C for me. That's selfish. You did that so that you could come back and control the situation
right,
and say, I've sacrificed everything. Now I need something back. But the
right.
truth is, what you need is to put yourself first so that you can show up and be of service to others in
Mhm.
a cheerful way. My good friend Julian Gordon, he always says, God loves a cheerful giver,
A cheerful.
a cheerful giver, not, and I'm not tripping about it giver.
Right.
Not, I guess I'll do this for you now,
Right.
giver. I guess it won't cause me no problems. No,
Right.
you have to be able to give from a place that makes you feel joyful and
Hmm.
abundant. And if
Hmm.
it's not that, go back to refilling your cup.
Yep. Absolutely. So I'm so excited to go super duper duper deep with this in Feminist Success
Yes.
School. Listen, let me tell you something. I was first a client and then I became a friend. I know that doesn't happen often, but I
It
will say
doesn't.
that if you have not joined Feminist Success School, if you have not taken the master class, she did not tell me this. Get your life together, because this is the amuse bouche, right? This is the little appetizer, right? If you really want to get into creating a strategic self care strategy that's supported by a system for all areas of your life. If you don't even know what all those areas are and the sub areas, then listen, go on and get your life together
Yes,
and get to working
yes.
with Yahya. So,
Yes, yes. I appreciate you so much for that piece.
yes.
And for this great conversation we're about to have inside of Feminine Success School. Thank you all so much for being here with us tonight. If you are not following the Evelyn Inc. on Instagram, be sure to go and follow the Evelyn Inc. If you are not subscribed over here on YouTube, make sure that you go and subscribe to the Evelyn Inc. on YouTube
Yes.
as well. So we're going to sign off. Y'all have an amazing night. The social Charlotte says, wait, what is that word, Chef Evelyn? Impouji bougie. It's a moose. We're not about to play with you tonight. We will send you that, but it's basically like your appetizer.
It's like the appetizer before the appetizer.
Right.
Yes, we'll put it in the stories later on.
All right. Y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. Spend some time to reflect on what we've discussed tonight and to tap into your needs in an even deeper way. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.